Crown Vics, they may be the last true American muscle car. You should probably get one before they're gone. Now, I'm aware that opening statement was a pretty bold statement. You're going to be, well, what about, the Mustangs? What about, all these other cars? Look, who can afford those? I mean, seriously. Yeah, Mustangs are a dime a dozen, the cheap ones, but, we all want to go fast. We want performance. Sometimes we even want to be able to haul the kiddos around, if you got them. But you can't afford 3 or 4 different cars, or can you? That's why I like these Crown Vics. They are real versatile, and they got a lot more performance than you realize. If you're like me, and you grew up in the era of pony cars, it was one of those deals. People my age have this misconception of what a muscle car is, and we widely dismissed 4-door cars. 4-door cars was there for parts. Everybody wanted a 2-door car, and it was all about Mustangs and Camaros. Well, times have changed, and it's been hard for a lot of the guys. But what I'm starting to realize is that there's a lot of cars out here that are a whole lot more beefy than people are realizing, and the Crown Vic is one of them. Part of what's made these cars so popular is not only just the economy of buying one, but they're the last full framed car Ford made. Say that fast 3 times. And the Panther platform, and it was an excellent platform. So people started using them for just everything. And they're disappearing a lot faster than people are realizing. People don't like these because they think they're, the whole family truckster syndrome. They're boring. They're 4 doors. Who wants a 4-door car? Well, the one thing I've discovered being online and looking at cars all over the world is that if you get out of North America, the number of doors really isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, 2-door cars are preferred, but 4-door cars are just as fast. I mean, a 4-door Chevy Impala has all the same performance goodies as a 2-door SS. You can put all the same things on it. I wouldn't put the badging on it because you'll get laughed at. But the Crown Vics, they're like that. At this point, I'm sure you're probably thinking I'm a little cracked. It's an old beat-up cop car. Yeah, but it's got a lot of goodies in it. And if you open your mind a little bit, you can see some real potential here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the 4.6 liter Ford V8. It's got overhead cams. It's got fuel injected. It's got some pretty free-flowing exhaust too. This is the same engine they put in the Mustangs. Quite literally the same engine. Maybe a little computer work would be necessary, but in this day and age, that's really easy. The exhaust is something to see also. It's dualed all the way back. It's got your cats up there. And it actually has a factory crossover pipe right here. The transmission on this, I believe, is a 371 limited slip, and it'll move. Now, granted, there is one weak point on this car. The transmission is fairly bulletproof, but it's an overdrive and they wear out over time, like all overdrive transmissions. It's just a fact of life. If any part of this car is going to fail, it's going to be the transmission. But they generally don't fail from general wear. They fail from abuse and neglect. If you're sitting there doing neutral drops and just tearing the crap out of it and punching it every time you go, yeah, they'll break rather easily. They're not made for abuse, but they are made to work. That being said, none of these cars are made for abuse, but we abuse them. They're made to be worked. The trunk on these cars is rather large. You can put a lot of stuff in here, surprisingly. I still haven't cleaned it out from the road trip. Now, as you've seen, the interiors on these cars are pretty sparse. Performance-wise, nah. There's a bunch of different options, but most of these Crown Vics came in a very basic form. The back seats consist usually of just vinyl back, rubber floors. They all seem to have the same cloth front seats, and the accompanying damage to where the cage was. But up front, there's no real amenities here. No cruise control. There's a pedal adjustment. It's got air conditioning and a very basic AM/FM radio. I've only recently found out that my other car was kind of an anomaly. It was a special order car. Carpet, cloth seats all the way around, and cruise control. And it gets great mileage. So somebody ordered this specifically for a chief or somebody like that. So I haven't figured out. I know where the car came from, up around Oberlin, but I don't know who actually drove it. But I'm guessing somebody higher up. But typically, if you're going to buy a Crown Vic Police Interceptor after 2006, this is what they're going to look like. And you can still get a lot of bang for your buck. Truthfully, if you're lucky enough to get a good one, you know, a lot of these, when they come to auction, are pretty ragged out, but I'm finding out a lot of them aren't. A lot of these cars did a whole lot more sitting and were backup cars than anything else. Seems all the high mileage ones gone first, and then the backup cars have gone second when new backup cars rotated in. And, you know, I'm finding Crown Vics going to the auction right now with 40 and 50,000 miles. You can get them on Purple Wave. But the handling on this car is on point. Both of them are on point. And if you had to replace something on it, they're fairly economical to replace parts. It's a Ford. It's a Panther platform. There's all sorts of parts for these things. So that's just something to keep in mind, because while performance parts are plentiful, basic everyday expendable parts are affordable too, and they're out there. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another plus is that a lot of these cars are flex fuel now. If you're into E85 and you want to play that game, a lot of these newer Crown Vics will accept any form of ethanol you can throw at it. And that kind of adds a little more of a wrinkle too. Sadly, these cars have fallen victim to the dime a dozen curse. It happens with a lot of neat cars. That's why you can't find a Mustang anymore. You can't find a second-gen Camaro anywhere, and when you do, they are astronomical amounts of money. Volkswagen Beetles, the same way. It's just the nature of things. When things are plentiful, people tend to take them for granted, and this Crown Vic has been no different. They're a dime a dozen. People are using them using their chassis for everything. The engines are going in everything. The shells are just getting thrown away. And people are realizing the value of the parts of these, but they're not realizing the value of the actual car. And that's kind of a problem because the car itself is kind of cool. The fact of the matter is the price of these is going up. You can still find them at auction, but they're still high in demand for the reasons I described, and the prices are going up and up and up. You know, 2-3 years ago, spending more than $1,000 for one of these was unheard of. Now, when they were big for taxi cabs or they were big export items, people were paying big money. Then the price just fell off. They got old. And then suddenly, people are starting to discover them again. And they're discovering them for a myriad of reasons, but the fact of the matter is they're buying them up, they're smashing them, they're stripping them. And to find a model that's drivable, yeah, you can still find them for, you know, $1,000 here and there, but the price is steadily going up. I'm routinely seeing them selling for, you know, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And there's still a lot of really clean models out there. And you think $5,000 for a car they haven't made since 2011? Yeah, the prices is going up. They're getting fewer and harder to find. So if you want a good economy car, this car is economical, honestly. It's got all the performance goodies on it, and you can bolt a lot more neat performance stuff on here. I'm seeing guys with twin turbos on them. They're putting nitrous on them. They're putting built engines in them. Don't get me wrong, people are going nuts with them. The 4.6 is a solid engine. You can do a lot with it. If you can do it to a Mustang, there's a good chance you can do it to this. And you can do it for half the price. But this is what's happening to these cars right now. If you like one, now's the time to get one. They're a good runaround. You can put 5 in them comfortably if you got a family. Got good trunk space, great on road trips. My one, I did 23 miles a gallon. But if you want a little bit of performance mixed in and you don't want to spend the money on a Taurus SHO or a BMW, which I don't know why anybody would, these are good mid-level cars. Now granted, they're old, but they'll get you down the road, and if you maintain them like anything, they'll last you a while. These cars are not expensive to maintain. So I hope you like this short little film. This is why I like Crown Vics. But what I said about cars disappearing, that's happening to a lot of them. People overlook a lot of these things because they're run-of-the-mill and they're everywhere. But there's hidden gold here if you know where to look. But like anything, do your due diligence. Find a good one. And you can find a good one for a decent price. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Have fun. We'll catch you next video.